This sure beats waking up at 6 o'clock in the morning and then waiting and waiting and waiting. We decided to come to you folks after all was said and done, after all the dust is settled. You can't win in August, September, October, November if you don't win in December, everybody. Florida State 1-0 in the offseason, 1-0 in December, possibly after landing their signing class. I'm Aslan Hajavandi, joined by Michael Langston and Matt Lasser. They cover recruiting like nobody else on the Florida State beat. Hit the thumbs up to show the appreciation for them working hard all throughout the year, and especially today, again, on National Signing Day. Thanks for being here. I'll start off with you, Michael. Lots of uncertainty around the Florida State football program, obviously, right now. Coming off just some really bad football on the field the last 2 seasons. It's hard to get out of this cycle of having to constantly go into the portal to replace starter after starter. You got to start building a foundation. How good of a foundation, how many foundational pieces do you think Florida State might have landed in this class today?
I think it's pretty good. I think there's areas that, that they hit on as hard as I want to, like the offensive line. You would like to see more blue chippers in there, but I think overall is pretty good, especially the wide receiver class. I think that's going to be the story of the class, a really good class. Obviously waiting on one more with Jason Lopez with the signing, but I think overall, I think it's a pretty good class, Aslan. I think based on everything that they've gone through the season, what the football's done, I think to keep a lot of these guys, because a lot of these guys are very elite players. Like, Ernest Rankins is very elite. Devin Carter's very elite. There's a lot of guys in here. Chucky, Ken, and you could go on with a lot of these guys. So I think for them to sign these guys, even though had another year that didn't go certainly as they had planned on the field, I think it says a lot about what they do and how they build their relationships, and the fact that these recruits still believe that they still believe in kind of the direction of where they're going, even though it hasn't shown on the field yet.
Matt, what about you, man? Do you see foundational pieces for Florida State sooner than later? Not everyone's got patience. Can this class that's ranked 14th right now produce several pieces that help this program find its footing and maybe save someone's career or two?
Yeah, I think you look at a guy like Isaiah Williams and you get really excited because that's a guy who you think could or probably has the best chance of this class of starting day one. Ernest Rankins right below him is a guy who has the frame, and you just need to develop him a little bit. It has that build that you like, though, and that has a chance to be elite. Jason Lopez, I'm just reading off the screen right at this point, but there's a lot of guys that you can get excited about in this class. I know a lot of people are stuck on the 3-star part of it, and we've talked about that at length at this point, but it's there's some guys who are probably more 4 stars than 3 stars talent wise, and at least at one point in the cycle they were a 4-star for a while. Like you look at Corbin Fordham, he was a 4-star for a while, and even though he is a 3-star rated by now. Brandon Bennett, Cam Brooks is in that one too, which that one was a surprise to everybody. That was really exciting at the end there, like less than an hour ago. Darion Williams was a high rank at one point in this class. There's a lot of guys who you can call 3 stars now, but at one point, at least when Florida State actually landed them, they were very highly ranked and 4 stars. There's a lot of potential. Karan Maycock is the one I get really excited about as well, another linebacker, because, that's one that Alabama was on. Texas was in on him at the end, and I think Texas wanted him. I think he just decided not to go to Texas when it got announced that Mike Norvell was retained or coming back for 2026. So there's a lot of those guys that are still to be excited about, even though, the flashiness of a 5-star blue chip ratio isn't there.
Michael, surprises is what makes signing day. Unfortunately, Florida State's kind of been on the bad end of surprises in terms of like losing guys.
Yeah.
To add a guy with the raw tools of an Akau Hepi, who's comes to us for courtesy of New Zealand.
Yes.
In Wellington, maybe it says Queensland right there, so maybe that's what it is. But 6'7.5", 370 pounds. Where did this young man come from, and what do you think the staff liked about him? What do you think he liked about this staff?
Well, he's from New Zealand, for where he came from, but played the NFL Academy. This is one that I don't think anybody on our staff knew about. It was kind of a shocker. He's from the NFL Academy. It's a new high school over there. They get a lot of international prospects, and um, we already see with Herb Hand that he really likes to touch into these international guys, their ability to control blocks, to control things, and they soak up things really quick. So I don't know how he'll pan out, but certainly there's a lot of tools to work with. We've seen that with Luke Francis when he was here, when he camped here. They're going to pass the look test, and everything's just about, and you got the right guy teaching you, because Herb Hand's been everywhere. He's really good at development. He's been at Auburn, Texas, North Carolina, a lot of different schools. So this is a guy that I feel like they've had kind of circled. Was committed to Auburn. FSU got him once their coaching was fired. They moved on the guy, and he moved on his recruitment and decided on FSU. I know Herb Hand has been talking to him for a while, but certainly a guy that, like I said, a lot of times we talk about technique and, hey, if they're going to fit and how well they're going to project. The one thing FSU doesn't have to worry about with him or Luke Francis is the size, and he meets everything you do. And from what I've heard, he moves pretty well. He's got quick feet. From what I hear, power is really good. Just technique. That's kind of what you're looking at, Aslan. Where if you get that and you develop that technique, you certainly have a few good guys, not just him, but Luke Francis, that you could certainly lean on later in their career as it goes on at FSU.
And
Man,
Aslan, to add on to that real quick, I got one more thing to add. Sorry. If you actually look at his rivals profile, and I realized this after we got that surprise at 7 a.m., like, oh, what the hell's, didn't expect this one coming. On his profile on visits, the only other visit other than Auburn listed is Florida State. Now, he's camped other places and been other places, but that was a team visit. The whole NFL Academy came in June, pretty early morning, and it was a quick visit, and that's when they offered him. But after that, it was just all Auburn. So when he decommitted from Auburn, Florida State was the only school that he really had there that he had visited or had familiarity with. So it was pretty easy once he decommitted from Auburn, once Florida State hit him back up within the hour after that, to get this rolling and get that surprise for us to wake up to.
John McKnight on Facebook says, what is this video? I think this is how it should look, man. That's what I want to see. I don't want to see you go up against some kid from a 2A school that weighs 165 pounds. Let me see some of this like raw athleticism. I know it's different having the pads on playing football, but man, this is a kid that's got some athleticism, especially for being 6'7" and 380 friggin' pounds. So I like what I see from this young man's tape. We've got folks lined up here in the queue. Let's go ahead and start things off. We got Aaron P. here in the house. All I've got is the air horn, Michael, so that's going to have to suffice for today.
Okay.
Aaron P., $10 in the jar. He does not mean to be rude, which I think means he might be rude.
Okay.
But the last time FSU signed a consensus 5-star recruit out of high school was 2017, Cam Akers.
Mm-hmm.
3-star Mike has never landed one. Hate to be that guy. Sorry. Stargazers, Michael. Thoughts on Stargazer?
Well, I mentioned at the outset, certainly you want blue chippers in there. Matt pointed out really clearly some of these guys have been 4 stars, but still, I mean, you want blue chippers in there, and that's going to what moves the needle. But I don't look at it that way. I kind of value the prospects of what they look like when I watch their film, and what I study and what I see, and how that projects to FSU. Now, you have 14, I think, 3 stars in there, and so that's going to rub people the wrong way, and I understand that, and I totally get it. I think you do need certainly I think they have 9 4 stars in the class, so that's pretty good too. But you want that number to be a little bit lower down when you're talking about the class as far as 3 stars. But I think a lot of these 3 stars are baller. I think Brandon Bennett's really good. Like, I mean, I think Brandon Bennett's probably the one that he didn't play a lot of his season, but if he did, I think that's a guy that I think you would have seen move up to a 4-star. And there's a couple other that I would do the same thing with, as far as that. But it's never going to change as far as how fans feel when they see the 3-star. It's going to set off just a light in their head, and I get it. And most of them I'm down with. I mean, even a guy like Cam Brooks. I mean, that guy's been a 4-star most of his time in the rankings, and then just recently, or I guess last time I checked, it was I saw it was high 3-star. So, and I've seen this kid play, and when I watch him, he's got a 4-star talent. I watch him. The motor's good. Hands are really violent. Does everything you look for from a strong side defensive end. Can certainly contain the rush. I mean, he has everything. So he projects very well to FSU. But I mean, we're never going to convince people when they're a 3-star that they're going to be, hey, they're going to be able to contribute, because a lot of people saw it last year when the Desir twins came in here. People were like, I don't know about that. Those guys are 3-stars, and they were kind of like, I don't know if they'll do it. And then, certainly they made a splash, even a bigger splash than a lot of guys that were 4-stars. If you look at like production wise, so. I would just caution people to just not have that same thing on every 3-star. Yes, there's some 3-stars that will take a little longer, but there's some in this class that are right there that I could put down as 4-star talent.
Matt, your thoughts on, again, the elusive composite consensus program changing potentially 18-year-old freshman?
Before he does that,
Lopez is officially in, by the way. Yeah, that's what I was about to say.
That happened last time, Aslan. Remember Chroma? We were doing the show. I remember that. Because there's always.
Gosh. I remember that. Like, we said that he was in, but he didn't. Like, he didn't sign it. Everybody thought that, like, I screwed it up again. I mimsed it. It's like, chill out, everybody. Worked out. So, all right.
Go ahead, Matt. Go ahead, Matt. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just wanted to drop that nugget that it just happened. So, go ahead.
Yeah. First off, I'm getting sick of the people commenting all the 3-star stuff of like, 3-star Mike, all that kind of stuff. It's getting really annoying, in my opinion, because a lot of these kids are still, and we've said it over and over again at this point, a lot of these kids still have a lot of potential and talent. Now, I'm not going to say all of them are going to end up that way, right? That's not true. Then that happens with anything. 4-stars end up that way too. But there's, again, like as Michael just said, there is a lot of these kids who were highly ranked at one point in this class that maybe when Florida State originally got them, they were higher ranked, right? Like I've already said it in this show, like a Corbin Fordham was a 4-star at one point. Cam Brooks was a 4-star at one point. Like all these guys were up there, and the rankings just shift over time and as it goes, but they were highly ranked, and clearly they were highly ranked by this coaching staff and in their evaluations at one point. So I think a lot of them, when I was going through the list, it was actually when we were recording for Wake Up Warchant for tomorrow, Aslan, when you were having me go through the list, I was like, I actually like a decent amount of these guys. Like, I know what people say, all the 3-star stuff, but like a lot of them I like and I'm excited about.
All right, let's talk a little bit about the latest addition to the class, Michael Langston. That's Jason Lopez. Chaminade.
Actually, to correct you, Aslan, Cam Brooks is the latest because now he's official. So,
okay.
But go ahead with your Lopez thing. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, man. Just what are we looking at here? And that's a program that's developed some really, really, really good players of late. Could he possibly be the next guy that fits that kind of bill?
Yeah, he's really good. From a great program, certainly with Chaminade. I like him a lot. It's certainly a really good slot receiver. Reminds you a lot of the 2 former Miami players that played, Xavier Restrepo, I don't get his name right, and then certainly Braxton Berrios that played there at Miami. It reminds you a lot of what they do. Very good at quickness in space, very good at making people miss, and he's got good speed to pull away. I mean, he is certainly a great prospect, and even one that I think Luke Laux is pretty high on, that they offer him in basketball as well. Matt's going to chime in on that in a minute, because I know he's itching to probably say something about that. But I think FSU was the one team that was focused on basketball and football with him, and I think the relationships from the beginning were just really strong. I think a lot of people thought early on it was going to be Miami for sure, because Miami had all the connections. Chaminade's kind of a Miami feeder school. They do a really good job at that school. But overall, I think he just fell in love with FSU, and I think Luke kind of like finished it off when he visited and he got a chance to be around Luke. I think he just connected with both the football and basketball program. So I definitely think he's a guy that could make an early impact, especially on the football field. Basketball, I'd say probably take a little longer, but I think football, when I see that kid and watch him and what he does in the slot, they don't have guys that moves quickness-wise like the way he does, that I think they could really use in this offense.
Matt, what do you think about this addition to the fold for the Noles?
Yeah, first off, to go to the basketball side of it, this wasn't one of those where the staff was just saying, oh, yeah, we'd recruit you for basketball too, even if you were just a basketball player. They actually really, really liked him. Like, that is a true statement in this case that if he was just a basketball player, he would still be getting recruited by Florida State pretty hard. And they really like him, obviously, as a point guard because he's smaller, but he's fast, shifty. He's a guy they're really, really excited about. To give some insight of how this will kind of go when he's at Florida State, he will always finish out the football season and then go over to basketball. So, for example, if he was on the team this year, he probably would have made the shift over to the basketball for Georgia last night, for the Georgia game last night. So that's kind of how you're looking at that there. But yeah, man, this is one that I'm really excited about, and that, you know, it was holding my breath, glad that finally the paperwork's finally officially through, because it was one that we looked at when he first committed, that it was a surprise that he didn't commit to Miami. Like, there was multiple picks in for Miami, and a lot of the guys over at Kane Sport even said, we're going to keep our picks in here because we think down the road Miami will come back around and scoop this one back up. But obviously he stayed true to Florida State. He didn't visit anywhere else. He only visited Florida State. I want to say it was just for the Miami game this year. That sounds about right. I mean, this kid's a really, really busy kid, man. Like, because he's going and playing football on Fridays and then going to a basketball tournament on the weekend and stuff like that. Like, this kid grinds. He's always doing something. He's never staying still.
Competitor. We like that. We like guys that are constantly not just going to 7-on-7 tournaments and camps, but actually competing, playing multiple sports. That's what a lot of these coaches like. We'll start with you, Mike. Easy Living 2475. Which of these signees might have an early impact or see the field early?
Well, I think Matt touched on a lot of them. I think the guy we just covered is certainly a candidate because they don't have a lot of slot guys that do what he does with his quickness in space. So that's certainly a guy that, you know, you certainly see that. I think Matt covered Isaiah Williams. That's kind of a no-brainer that, you know, that's a place where FSU needs a lot of help. I think you're going to see that. I covered Chauncey Kennan earlier today. I think that's going to be a thing where it's kind of a Jabril Rawls thing where it slowly goes in there, but once he gets things down, that's a guy that I think will play. So I think he'll play some and certainly, you know, do some damage. I think Xavier Tiller is definitely a guy that I think will see the field because he's athletic, he's physical, he's got the body frame. He's perfect, kind of what they want to run with their tight ends. He's almost like a big receiver. For those who haven't seen him play, I mean, he is very athletic and certainly got great speed for a guy that big. And usually think of tight ends kind of stiff and all that stuff, but he's very flexible. He can do a lot of different things, and he's special. So I think those are some of the guys that certainly stand off. I think some of them will take a little longer. You know, some will have to build their bodies right. I think guys like Brandon Bennett, you know, Devin Carter, you want to see the nutrition and get into the, you know, their bodies to fill out the way you want it. You know, they might be used on special teams or late in games or whatever, just, you know, at different spots. But I think what they'll really do is take off in their second year. But, you know, I think those guys will certainly be in the factor as far as their career. But I think you'll probably need to get their bodies right. And then you just have other guys like I think Matt mentioned Karan Maycock. That's the one that's intriguing to me because they need speed at linebacker, and Karan has that in spades. So he's going to be a guy you can utilize in different third down situations. I think he's a guy you could see out there just on third downs because his speed and the way he's almost like a safety playing linebacker because he's so fast and he's got, you know, great wheels. And guys like Ernest Rankins, I think, is one that I think could be inserted in there as well. So there's a lot of great guys. I understand people with the 3-star, and I'm with you. I think there needs to be improvement in certain areas. I've already mentioned the offensive line. That needs to be improved where you get more blue chippers. Even defensive line, same thing. But overall, the talent, you just scroll down through it, Aslan. There's a lot of talent in this class these are top blue chipper guys, a good portion of these guys. So there's some that are kind of, we'll see, but I think there's a lot of good talent in here.
What about you, Matt? I mean, we just, Michael rattled off a lot of guys. Anybody in particular you think deserves a second mention, or maybe we did not get to touch on? Again, you could go back and look at signing day videos from 2018, and I'm sure we said something really positive about every single player. But when you think about what Florida State needs to replace next year, it's probably easier on the offensive line. That's not exactly where they thrived in this recruiting class. But when you think about what Florida State's going to need for next season, and you look at this class, who are some of the candidates you think, like, yeah, I want to be surprised if, midway through spring, we start to hear some, buzz, like the buzz that we heard about the DeSeer twins and the buzz that we heard about Shamar Arnaud, guys like that.
So you're going with more, like, you want more of a surprise one, really? Because obviously, like, I'm going, like, Isaiah Williams is my go-to, and I'm going to keep hammering that down no matter what. Like, that's the one that I think has the best chance, especially what we've heard of how his knee has been rehabbing. I've heard a lot of good things about that from his camp. He is going to, I don't think I've said this on this show tonight. He is going to be non-contact in the spring, so we'll be wearing like a green jersey. I'm not sure how much he'll be in drills and stuff, but I think he'll be able to kind of be out there, just obviously not taking any hits. And then he'll be full go in the fall. And man, that's a guy they need and they could use right now. And we all know that. So that's the one I'm going to keep harping on. A guy like Michael mentioned Xavier Tiller. My only issue with that is the tight end room is pretty damn packed right now. So I think working your way through that is going to be tough, especially if I believe Randy Pittman still has another year. Not that we know he's coming back or not, but it's there. So I think that's the only reason why I wouldn't say that one. Jason Lopez, yeah, we've seen how receivers can work their way up fast here. We saw it with Boggs, McCoy, this last season. So, if they earn the right, I guess the guy who could get the most buzz out as a kind of a surprise would probably be Jason Lopez, even though it wouldn't be that much of a surprise. It's a guy who could start. That's not Isaiah Williams. The rest of them, I think we need to see how their bodies develop in a tour of duty or over the spring.
Right. I would also add, Aslan, just to say, if I was picking a surprise, the guy, and this might surprise a lot of people, don't be surprised if you see Amari Thomas moving in that running back room, because they don't have a lot of guys on their roster that do what he does. He's very shifty, very one-cut guy, very jump cut guy. They don't have a lot of guys that do that. Sam's kind of a different, straight power, fast go. And then certainly Usman is more of the power guy who's got some speed. And I don't think they have a lot of players that are shifty the way this kid is. So I think you could see some Amari in there. I don't know how much he'll play, but I do think that's a guy that they don't have a lot of that skill set in that backfield. And so that, I think, will help them a lot. And I think it might surprise some people, but that's a guy that would be my surprise pick if there's a guy that is not the obvious choice. And this is one of those that is kind of out of left field.
Robert Falzoni has entered the chat. Bobby Fowl dropping $2 in the jar. Thanks.
Nice.
Thanks, Robert. Post a question. I'll pop it on the screen. Promise. By the way, Trey Gentleman had a really good question, which was, so everybody knows, we can see everybody's live comments, but then we can actually star the ones that we like to go back to it. So actually, I had this one flag, guys. I was going to definitely bring it up, but then he also put $5 in the jar to jump to the front of the line. I see you, Trey. I see you, Trey. Yeah. So predictions on the transfer portal. Then we'll start with seniority here on this one, Michael. Again, then they went over 30 today in terms of high school guys, which that's what everybody wanted. Remember, we all want to start recruiting high school players. Do you have a good feel at all for, let's not even get into the money of it all, but just in terms of a number of guys, maybe offense or defense, or just a whole sort of portal class number that you think Florida State will be hovering around?
I think the larger number will be on offense because you have to replace that entire offensive line. So you're going to probably get 6 or 7 guys, I would think, out of that, I'm guessing. And then certainly I think you're going to need a quarterback. Not to start anything, but I think they're going to probably go after a quarterback. That's my feeling. So offense mostly. I think receiver, I think you're okay. Receiver. So, and tight end, Matt's mentioned it about, how stacked that room is. So I think most of the stuff's going to be on offense. I don't really have a number because I hate putting a number on the portal because they always go above whatever I pick. So I think it'll be pretty high.
20, Matt, lower, high, 19.5 over under.
Ooh,
that's a big number. That's 13 and a half.
That's 13 and a half. I would probably go over. The 19 and a half I thought was a good number because that makes you think a little bit, right? I mean, they've always gone with a lot of guys in the portal. It's the way it's been. But I think what I do think this big of a class does is it gives you more depth that you know about right now. Not that you know about, because obviously you don't want a lot of these guys to play. You're going to have 50 to 75% of them probably redshirt. But like, it gives you depth to where now you can go out and get for sure starters that you know that you can sell starting positions to, right? And it gives you kind of some leeway. That's my view on it, is that you need, now that you have all these guys, you can go for sure things. And also, like everyone says, the 3-star thing, that means they probably weren't super expensive kids, right? And you can go spend more money in the portal. So there's two sides to the coin.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. And then to chime in on that portal, I would say I think they would go pretty heavy on linebacker as well. They need some experienced guys in there. Matt maybe knows more of what their roster is, but I think there's certainly that's a place I think they'll be active with. Same thing with edge guys. Yes, they signed a bunch of edge guys, but these are high school, and you don't know how long it's going to take. So I think you need at least one or two of those guys from the edge that are solid impact type players.
What about JUCO, man? What about Jalen Anderson, my guy from Pearl River, man?
Yeah,
what do we think about What do we think about that one?
I think about that one. That's probably, in my opinion, one of the steals. I know he's a 4-star, and some places got 3-star, but I know mostly on Rivals it's 4-star. That's a guy that LSU was trying to get. Matt did a little, I think post on it about it. That
it was scary at the end there for a little bit.
Yeah, LSU. I had heard that through different people at LSU that I talked to, and that they were going to be active with him. But a lot of people kind of might think this is crazy. A kid I think he's from Slidell, Louisiana. Is that correct, Matt? Like, that's his hometown?
I think he's from Louisiana. I don't know the town.
Yes, I think it's Slidell, Louisiana.
I think you're right, Matt.
And a lot of people thought, like, when LSU was going to make a coaching change, like, that was one of the top guys that they were going to go after to try to keep. So that was the worry, and so that's kind of where Matt's came in, where you didn't know if he was going to stick. But for a guy from Slidell, he really loved FSU. That's kind of the place he's always dreamed of playing for. And a guy that certainly will fit that impact guy, Aslan. But I think you definitely also want competition and with a few other portal guys, one or two. I think that will get you in a good place. But yeah, I'm very high on Jalen. Jalen's, I think, is one of the best prospects that they got late in this process. He committed to get him in the fold. I think was a big deal for FSU before you get into the portal, because you want to have something you can lean on outside of that portal, and this gives them something if this one pans out.
I'm sorry, guys. I gotta defend my folks over at Ross. I hope HL Noel isn't slandering the retail chain Ross. Ross is a fantastic place to find high quality items at very low prices, which I think might be what Florida State needs to do right now. So let's not hate on Ross. You can find like Under Armour and Nike there for like $15 for a gym shirt.
There you go.
Show some respect. We respect. Noel Kev, 88, dropping $20 in the jar. All I got's the air horn. You got to deal with it. I've got this new setup here, and I got to import everything over. I will at some point. Thank you, Kev. We appreciate it, man, for sure. For real. He looks pretty jacked, too. Going with the sleek cutoff shirt. A little flex. I see what you're doing there. All right. Obviously, these kids hear all the chatter of, though Norvell will be here in 2026, the fan base. Lots of FSU media expect him gone before the start of 2027. Is that something recruits discuss, Michael? How much of that chatter, the instability, I guess, around the program, Michael, how much of that do you think affects recruiting? Would this be a top 8 class if everybody knew Mike Norvell was coming back like a month ago?
No, I don't think it'd be that high. But I do think there's chatter with it. I mean, recruits talk about it, but it's not like they're not overly bothered by it when it comes to stuff, unless they feel like there's enough noise where the noises are really loud that, hey, man, this guy could get fired and not be there when we're there. But overall, I think these kids, all these kids I think that signed, they're very sure about what this guy's going to do. I had a really good talk with EJ White, who's one of my favorite recruits. We haven't even talked about him 4-star athlete, plays quarterback. He has over 2,000 yards passing this year. He's not even a quarterback. Like 27 touchdowns. But EJ said, like, I know they're going to use me, but I just felt different when I was there at FSU, where I knew there was a culture. I knew the people I was around. I knew the brotherhood, and also I know I'm going to I know I'm going to be taken care of there, and just felt a part of the family, and also just he feels like his skill set fits really well. I still feel playmakers feel that this is an offense built for them. It's kind of what Mike said when he got here. It's a place built for playmakers. So I think a lot of kids still feel that way. I think there's a lot of kids that still believe in what they're doing. We talk to these kids like after the game. You can tell body language of kids that are kind of, they like them, and there's kids that really love them, that they still believe in what they're doing. So I think a lot of these kids kind of block that stuff out and almost use it as motivation. Like, well, I'm going to show you when I get to FSU that they are good. And we are going to be good. So I think that's the way a lot of the recruits view things when they hear that chatter.
Aaron's back. $2 in the jar. Aaron, you don't have to do that. You don't have to apologize either. This is apologies, guys. I just don't trust Norvell. You should not.
I don't blame him. I don't blame him.
It's okay.
I wouldn't either.
It's okay. It's okay, man. I didn't mean to make you sound like I don't think you were being all that rude. Hey, it's fine. Are all your friends in the chat right now, Matt? I feel like they're taking over. The vibe is shifting in the live chat. But anyhow,
I sent it to them to watch. I don't know if I haven't really been looking at the chat a whole lot.
Yeah, no, it's fine. All right, what else do we have here in the old chat here? Now we're talking about what do you think about the hire this? We didn't get to this one. Shout out Deck Night on the Rocks Bourbon. That's a long one. We'll get that $10. $10 gets you a soundtrack.
Dude, you need to get some 3 letters for that. Like, that's a little
acronym?
long. Yeah.
DNRB. DNRB.
There you go.
Let's see what this avatar is real quick. Is it maybe like a Deck Night on the Rocks? We got the best recruiting news today. Brian Hartline to USF. Ride Mike for 2 more seasons. Let Hartline get some head coaching work. Solidify his ties in the state of Florida. Then move on from Mike after 2027. Hire Hartline 2029 championship. Thoughts, Matt?
Glad Matt's leading off.
So I when people were bringing him up for FSU, if Mike got fired, I didn't like it because he's literally done nothing as an OC, only as a wide receiver coach, really. Like, I don't think he's truly running the offense this year, is he? I could be wrong on that, but he wasn't last year for sure. Right. He's literally just known for developing wide receivers, not a whole team, just a singular positions. That's my view on Hartline. So if he can do great at USF. I think it's a great hire for a level program at USF, but it'll be interesting to see how he does there.
What do you think, Michael? I get it. The coaching thing, not having the head coaching experience, but has been pointed out by, I think, Andy Staples first said it, and then Corey's been co-opting it a little bit here. You look at some of the top coaches in the country. You start with Kirby Smart. You look at Dan Lanning, Ryan Day. These guys started as coordinators at high-level programs and then got a head coaching job. So this isn't a coordinator. Well, I guess it is. I mean, he has made his bones as a wide receivers coach, but as Matt said, he has been an offensive coordinator. I think he actually has been calling plays this year.
Yes, yes.
I just need to double check on that because Julian Sain's been tearing it up, but I don't know how much of his development is Brian Hartline. And obviously his ability to get guys, though, man, that's important, right, Michael?
It is, and I actually like this situation. I'm not saying, I'm not predicting, I'm not agreeing, I'm not putting a stamp down and say, hey, yeah, do it. I'm saying I like this situation because he's going to have a head coaching job. You're going to get a feel for what he is as a head coach. You can decide if you're going to pursue him or not. I've always thought very highly of Hartline, the way his eye evaluation is. It's very good. It's not just receivers, but he's very good at knowing offenses. I know a few people at work, are inside the Ohio State program. He told me, like, he is very involved in kind of what they do with the game plan. I don't know how much he's play calling.
He is. It looks like it. Sorry to interrupt.
Okay, that changes it a little bit.
Yeah. So I like him a lot. I've seen him several times on the trail with different places I've been. But I've always liked his skill as far as eye evaluation, and I think it's a great situation. It's a good point the guy brought up because you get to see him as a head coach. And if he passes the test as far as different things you're looking for of how players connect, that's one to keep an eye on. I know it sounds silly this far away because we haven't seen what he does as a head coach, but yeah, I think I would be down for that, or I would at least be intrigued by it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I was excited at the thought of that. And then, look at Kentucky, man. Kentucky just got Will Stein, who's the offensive coordinator at Oregon. I think he actually went to Louisville, but he's going to UK.
Oh, that's gonna work good.
That would have been nice. That would have been okay.
I'm okay with those. Yeah, I'm okay with those.
Yeah, those are both really good hires.
And I love these things when coordinators go to head coaches because it kind of gives you, if you're looking for a head coach down the road, you kind of already have a almost like a evaluation period that you can go through to see what these guys do.
Shout out to 2 times Brax89 throwing that extra penny for the 10 even.
Nice.
Yes, sir. Since we are speaking about Brian Hartline, since he's going to USF, what's the chances of Jeremiah Smith hitting the portal? And if so, Mike, back that Brinks trucks up to that kid.
Very low.
Very low. He just tweeted still recruiting Chris Henry, who decided not to sign with Ohio State today and is still muling his options. Big offer in from Texas there and Oregon as well. And he tweeted at him recruiting him still, even with Hartline leaving. So I think that tells you that Jeremiah Smith ain't going anywhere.
Yeah, there he is right there. We don't need him, Jeremiah. You're going to be back next year. Don't be greedy. Don't be so greedy.
Jeremiah's like, I'm getting paid by the hour, man. I won't be here long. So we need you right now.
Man, what makes me nervous is this, man. He's still repping Dade County. What if Mario does something crazy, man? But again, I don't know.
He tried that.
You know, like, again, it's so tough to talk about portal because, listen, you know, there's rev share and then there's NIL. NIL is still a thing, but they're really trying to police and govern this thing so that NIL is not pay for play. Like, you have to get everything through the College Sports Commission. It goes through Deloitte. Most people know this. I'm not trying to mansplain to the men out there, but you can't just give a guy $150,000 to come out to your dealership and sign autographs for 1 hour, man. So it's going to be interesting to see how much movement there is. Now, listen, a lot of these guys signed front-loaded contracts last year, so that kind of, you know, gets you a little bit under the radar a little bit. But you would instantly get. I would hope if Jeremiah Smith entered the portal and went anywhere, that school is immediately under investigation because there's no way. Listen, he's awesome, but there's no way you could tell me that his marketing power is worth like $5 million. Not even in an ultimate college town like Columbus, Ohio. Can't prove it. No way.
Or you can be just like Lane Kiffin and don't care and just do whatever you want.
That's going to be interesting. We should all root for that. Just so, like, it's crazy because they say it out loud, right? Like, this is how much money we're going to give him for players. Like, you, but you, I don't know. I don't know, man.
The NCAA can't do anything about it anyway. So
I guess.
Talk all you want.
Guess. What else do we got here in the live chat? There's a lot here. Can we get a sit down with Michael Alford to talk NIL changes and all that? Maybe we'll see if Ira can get that. That's like Ira's account. That's who they want to speak to. They don't want to speak to me.
No, they want the man.
All right. Let's what about quarterback, guys? A lot of people talking about, you know, do you stay on Tommy? Do you get rid of Tommy? Do you build around Sperry? Start with you, Michael. I know they got Jaden O'Neal, and I don't want to talk too much about the team. I mean, this is National Sign Day, but you know, Sperry's a guy that got in last year, last minute flip. I mean, is it really a flip when you kind of get let go? But anyhow, what do you think Florida State should do, and what do you think Florida State ultimately will do at the quarterback position?
Yeah, I think a lot of Kevin. I think that the writing's on the wall of what they're going to do going forward, that they didn't play and burn that red shirt, you know, him playing even, and they just kind of let Tommy do his thing. But I think they're going to be going for a new quarterback in the portal. That's my opinion. I think that's there. I mean, it's not hard to see this didn't work, you know, as far as what they were doing. And it's nothing against Tommy. Tommy played his heart out. He played hard. He did exactly what, you know, I think some of the things that we thought that he would do, as far as he'd make explosive plays. There's some throws he'd make, and there was some throws that at times were erratic, and that's kind of the way it worked. But I definitely, in my view, I think they're going to go to the portal. They're going to look for a quarterback. Now, who that quarterback or what style quarterback that's going to be, we don't know because we just have to wait and see what things happen with the staff and who's going to be there and who isn't. But from my perspective, I think they're going to go to the portal.
What do you think, Matt? This is above all of our pay grades. This is a really important decision for Florida State for next season. What do you think they should? What do you think they will do at quarterback, and how does Kevin Sperry factor into that?
Yeah, I think that, we know Tommy is going to try to apply for that year. Iro's gone on record saying a couple times that it's not looking good at this point from what he's heard, from what we've heard at Warchant of him getting that year, which is kind of messed up in my opinion because the rule did change right after. He really legitimately should get another year. That's the way it is. But yeah, I could see him go into the portal. I wouldn't mind them putting Sperry out there, but I think if this is Norvell's career on the line, Norvell's job on the line, they're probably going to have to go for a sure thing in the portal. It's nothing that no one said on this video channel over the last 2 weeks. It's different in my opinion. But there's still just under a month just under a month because it's January 2nd when the portal opens. Wait and see who comes into the portal. Just because the Old Dominion quarterback's the best one out there right now doesn't mean that's the one they're getting or the one they're going after yet. Let it develop. Let's see what happens. That kid's probably going to follow his coach to Oklahoma State. Why wouldn't he? Talking about the North Texas kid.
Drew Mestamaker.
Let's wait and see how this kind of develops and then figure it out. We still have retaining players before we get to the portal, and let's see how that goes.
I love Matt's passion, but they're not going to do that, Matt. they're going to want now. Like, if I see somebody I like, I want them now. But, yeah, to Matt's point, he's 100% correct that, you want to be patient with it. And I think they will be. I don't think they're just going to – I think last cycle was kind of like, okay, Tommy's the guy because he fits everything what Gus wants to do. It was kind of simple. That was the way to go. But I think this one's going to be a little more complex because this is a vital year. Let's not beat around the bush. Hot seat stuff's going on. So Mike's got to do something, protect himself, and they need to really get this down to nail it with the quarterback position. So I think they're going to be very detailed and complex about what they look for. Like, it depends on who's going to be here, and they'll go for there. But I think they're going to be very detailed with this. Sperry's really good. I think Sperry a lot. But like I said, if you weren't going to play him more than the 4 games, you weren't seriously, in my opinion, thinking about him the next year being the guy.
Yeah. That was something they brought up on headlines where, it felt like Mike was coaching as though he knew his job was on the line week to week. And until they told him after the NC State game, it was all good. But again, the transparency would have been helpful because then that would have maybe made some more sense about trying to get Sperry into some of those. I mean, the Wake Forest game, that was over, man. Like, he never got, I don't know, but then maybe you want to preserve the red shirt, et cetera, et cetera. Here's a question that comes around every year. Lee Fields in the chat. I'll start with you, Matt. I don't know. I don't know. We'll defer to Michael, perhaps. Do you all know the percentage of recruits who will be enrolling early? Again, right now, the list on On3 shows Florida State with, where's the number? There should be this huge number showing you how many guys they have committed, but it's not that big. It's 31. So of those 31, you want to just go real quick? How about this? You guys can, I don't know. We'll see how much you guys each know. You can talk over to
it would be, I think it's
McKinnon.
Most of them. Okay. I believe he is. I know Isaiah is. Ernest, I'm not sure of. Jason Lopez, I think he's playing basketball in the spring, so not. Jalen Anderson, I'm pretty sure is. Devin Carter definitely is. Not sure on Ephraim White. Probably Tiller.
He is. EJ is.
EJ is. Not sure on Tiller. Whitley, I'm not sure on. Like, a lot of these guys, I mean, I've been focused on signing day. I need to go back and ask them. I know Jaden O'Neal is. The majority of them are going to. That's more of the trend at this point. It's pretty rare to see them not early enroll. Like, they'll probably be a group of. This is a 30-person class, so maybe it's 10, probably between 5 to 10 of guys who are early enrolling is my guess. But majority of them are.
All right, well, yeah, because Chroma, that was always a weird thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
But anyhow, Jeremy from South Florida.
Okay.
Is recruiting still fun for you guys to cover, or has the portal and NIL taken away a lot of the fun of it for you guys? Start with you, Michael. You've been doing this a little bit longer than the rest of us. I'll speak real quickly. I mean, February signing day from like 2002 to 2015 or whatever. Like that was it, man. That was life. Loved it, man. It was all on the line.
Mm-hmm.
I hate early signing day. I hate NIL. I don't hate NIL. I hate pay for play even more. But I don't have to cover recruiting so closely like you do, Michael. Just how much has that affected the way you cover and do your job?
I mean, there's certain parts of it that are fun. It's certainly the relationships I love. I love the drama of what's going to happen during the year. I don't love the drama on signing day that they do, that the Calvin Russell situations where I'm locked in and then here's signing day and I'm not going to decide. That stuff, it was kind of, it gets a little old, but I do like what they did with the portal where it's only one time only. That does definitely make it easier. Where last year, the last few years, we're doing this crap till like May, because we don't know when, portal guys, they do because you have one portal window, another, but now they have one. I think that makes it a lot more comfortable. I mean, the covering up the stuff is fine. It's more challenging. That's the way I would look at it because you're dealing with NIL, a factor that you haven't dealt with before it entered. So it makes it a lot more challenging where before you're just finding out like what is the connecting point of this recruit of what they're looking for. What is kind of the main factor and who are the people and contacts that are going to know what's going on with that situation where now you have to factor in the NIL, who's involved, the agents involved, all the stuff. There's a lot more dynamics to it. So there's times it's uncomfortable. I can't speak for Matt. That's just me. There's times where it's uncomfortable, but there's times where it's still fun with the relationships. I still enjoy the relationships with the recruits. That's why I do it. I love the interaction with recruits and getting to know them personally. And that's kind of the stuff I've always liked when I've done it. So that's still there, but there is stuff that kind of gets old with the NIL and then different other parts of it that is challenging.
This is all you've known, the chaos, Matt.
Yeah.
Like you don't know how it used to be. So I guess this maybe doesn't bother you too much. I mean, how does all this, I don't know, complicate, or do you not think your job is all that complicated when it comes to reporting on all this?
I think if anything, it makes it a little easier because you know where the money's at, you know where the highest offer is, and more often than not, the kid goes there. Like Kavion Bryant, Texas Tech is going to pay more than anyone else, and that's why he's at Texas Tech. Like there's not like it kind of there's less of a gray area of reasoning why, right? Like it's not like mom hated it, but dad loved it, and all this stuff. No, it's pretty simple. Now to go with it, it is fun to. It is rewarding to see these kids like a kid like Cam Brooks, who we've talked to and covered a lot of the recruitment, and we knew that he always wanted to go to Florida State, and see that come to fruition today is very cool. Or last year I go to Tylon Lee getting named a 5-star at the end of the cycle, and I text him and I go, bro, congrats on being a 5-star. And I was the first one to tell him, and he called me and was like, are you serious? And I was like, yeah, man, like I don't have anything to do with the rankings. I just saw the tweet. But it's like so it's like there is rewarding parts of it. It's still fun. While sitting at my desk all day off coffee and Zins until 3:00, waiting for everything to happen, it isn't the greatest. It's still cool to have this one day where everything comes to fruition.
Wes from the Villages had a question about Trenton Henderson, Pine Forest. Is this where Jonathan Daniels went to school at? Feel like?
Yes, that part is correct. Let me just clear this real quick, Wes.
Go.
It ain't happening.
Okay.
It ain't happening with Trenton Henderson. So that's not likely. So I'll just put that.
And I think if
already checked on that.
If there was a chance, the signing of Cam Brooks kind of puts that to bed. You would think, just because it's another at the same position, and they already have 5 edge rushers at this point.
Merc, who's the best recruiter on the staff? And will the changes promised include more focus on scouting and recruiting? We'll answer the first part of that question first, I guess, Michael, if you don't mind. Who do you think is the best recruiter on the staff right now?
Well, if you go by what they landed in the recruiting, I would say Tim Harris Jr. is pretty darn good. I mean, he'd be pretty high up there for me. When you look at the guys he landed, I think Pat Surtain's always been really good as far as recruiter. Certainly got Chuck in the fold, and he's always been pretty solid as far as what they do. But I think the latter part of your question is, yeah, you know what, dude, I feel the same way. there needs to be much more on scouting and recruiting, but there also needs to be a different attitude, I think, when they recruit. I mean, there needs to be an edge to FSU, and I think that's kind of missing sometimes. Based on when I talk to recruits and just their families, probably needs to be a little more edge about FSU of being a little abrasive just about their program, not abrasive about themselves, but abrasive about the program. That hey, we're this. Look, this is what FSU's done. As far as in the history, and I think they could be a little more aggressive with that stuff.
How about you, Mr. Lasser? Who do you think's been the best recruiter on the staff, and do you anticipate these changes? Which I think Brett Taylor also asked in the chat. When are we gonna find out about official information on this new organizational structure? So we're not going to get Mike till Friday. So that probably be the earliest that we would get some sort of concrete information, I would think. But back to the question, Matt.
Yeah, it's I don't know on when the changes are happening. I've been too deep into. I got to get through today first, guys, before going into anything else. But it's the best recruiters on the staff. The three you look at first are Surtain, Thompson, and Tim Harris, because this wide receiver class is really good. Yak's also done a good job landing Chroma last year. I really like Thomas a lot. We haven't talked about him a whole lot, but Thomas is a guy that I think we're all very high on, and it was good that you were able to get him back from South Carolina. That is one where relationships matter, and relationships get you a discount from what he was getting offered at South Carolina. That is why you still do old school recruiting right there. Our kids like how Amari Thomas's recruitment worked out. And tight ends, Chris Thompson, obviously, they normally really only get one tight end a class. And, this one they got two, and they were actually going after three. They were pushing hard for Ezzy Kent at the end. Obviously, that was going to be a little tough to do, and it didn't come to fruition, but they were still pushing. They were still in that one for another top tight end at the end.
Real quick, Michael, are they done? Wes says that he saw a tweet from the team that somebody else might be coming.
That was Cam Brooks, I think.
Yeah.
Let's look at the timestamps.
I think they're done for the early signing period.
Okay. You said this name, Calvin Russell. What do we think?
I don't think I know there's been mention of FSU. I think FSU, Florida, and Miami have been the teams that have been thrown around to go along with Syracuse. I personally think he's going to eventually end up at Syracuse, but I don't think there's a strong shot. I have not heard any buzz that would lead me to believe that FSU has like a major opportunity, or I'm hearing things that would make me believe that FSU is a major player. I haven't heard anything as far as that goes. In fact, I've heard like tonight, once the Cam Brooks thing happened, that was pretty much, okay, we're good. We're done. So it wasn't like they're waiting on somebody. Usually, we'll hear from different sources, or I will, that, hey, we might be waiting on one or two. That didn't happen tonight. So I don't think Calvin's really a major possibility.
Yeah, to add on to that, so Marcus Benjamin was there on 3, national rivals reporter down in the South Florida area. He was down there when he announced that he wasn't signing today. Put it out that Calvin Russell mentioned Florida State, and Miami as the schools that have hit him up recently. Other national reporters are also saying Michigan because he almost committed there originally. And I think he still ends up at Syracuse at this point because, Fran Brown did his signing day press conference, and Syracuse doesn't know what it's like signing big time recruits. So like even at ACC kickoff, someone straight up asked about Calvin Russell, and Fran Brown couldn't talk about it. So like no one knows in upstate New York, no one knows how to handle this type of recruiting. But it's he was like basically asked what happened with Calvin Russell without the person saying it, but it was pretty obvious, and it sounded like he was still confident in it. So I think it's just stirring up some drama as of now. But, yeah, I would be surprised if – clearly Florida State's in it, and it's cool that they're still talking to him there at the last second. That's always good to be in with that 5-star, and that's how you know that relationship is there, so that if he enters the portal down the line, you have that lifeline and you have that connection right away. But, yeah, I'd be surprised if he went to Florida State at this point.
All right, let's get back to the class that Florida State has signed. RB48. How good is Chris Carbin? They seem to put a lot of emphasis on him at one point.
Yeah, I like him a lot. I really I didn't know a lot about him probably early in the process, and then once I saw FSU was, starting to get him on campus for visit, and then I started studying more film, got more stuff to look at because I wanted more game stuff, not just highlights. And I really liked what I saw, Aslan. I mean, I think this kid's very good with his hands, very quick. I mean, that's what I look for, guys his size. Looking, what you can do in space, and what do you do in space when you're one-on-one with a guy? And I think it's certainly attractive. When I saw that, he's a guy that can come up on. You can use him on the edge, but you can also use him if you need to rotate him in the middle. He's a very versatile guy that I think is undervalued. He's one of those few that I would put undervalued. I'm not going to say a lot of these 3 stars are all, undervalued, but he's one that I think is undervalued and probably should be ranked higher based on what I watch on film. When I watch this film, it's very violent. It's very get off the line, get off the block, finish, motor, strong. Everything's there that you kind of look for from a defensive lineman. So I'm not projecting and saying he's going to be a starter, or he's going to be a ACC All-American or any of that. When I watch him, I project that's a guy that I feel can definitely play here and definitely make an impact at some point when he's here. He has that gift, and you listen to him the way he talks about when he talked about FSU. The big selling point for the FSU was, we feel like you're an early impact guy. So it's not, there's a pitch in there a little bit, but there's also some truth to that they feel like this guy's one that we can put in our rotation in some place and really make some noise.
That was a big pitch to a lot of guys, especially on the defensive line, that hey, look at the Deseers, look at what we're doing right now, that young guys are already getting in here and doing a lot, right off the bat, no matter wherever they came from. And Chris Carr, I'm not a film guy, and I always claim not to be a film guy, so I'm not going to go in and judge that. But I think what should tell you a lot is right after the summer happened and he missed, and Florida State missed on some guys kind of late there, that they still was kind of surprised they came on official visits, that this was the first guy that they clearly made a push for, and I think went to the top of the board pretty quickly. And, you saw that push by. He showed up on campus the first point he could for that Alabama game, because he got offered when it was a dead period. The first time he could visit was for that Alabama game, and he was there. And then he came back for an official visit, waited a few weeks, and then eventually ended up committing. This is one that once Florida State got on him, I think it was a really hard push, and he became one of their top targets or one of their top wants at that position.
The Rico Reaper 22. You need to calm down. He wants to poach from your dad's alma mater, Matt. He wants to kill Cade Bell and Mason Heinschel.
Nice.
Augie Knoll, I'm not being contrarian here, but again, I don't think Gus is coming back. But
I think it's trending that way.
So that obviously changes the way you look at this. But this offense, man, there was things schemed open, and it wasn't always drops. There was drops, but obviously some of these throws were not good enough, were not consistent enough. Yep. I don't think you need a higher end quarterback. I think you need a quarterback who has a little bit of mobility, but can throw above average. I don't think that's going to break the bank. I think guys like that actually do grow on trees. I think guys like, Fernando Mendoza maybe doesn't grow on trees, and I'm with Augie Knoll here. He says, save the resources, spend on your offensive line, regardless of who the quarterback is. You have to have a solid offensive line and running game. If you give Sperry a stud offensive line and a consistent running game, things might work out well. I don't know about that, but this offensive line, to you, I'll give you, Michael, this offensive line was above average this year. They were really good, I think, this offensive line.
Yeah, especially in the first game. Especially in the first game. You're going against a lot of pros in that game. Probably more pros than they faced, but to the point, last part, no, can't agree with that. But the first part, I can definitely agree with. You want to put the resources in the line. I would say both sides. Put offensive line, defense line. That's where you need to put. That's where I would put the money as far as, because that's the value that's going to come out. And I agree with you, Aslan. You don't need a Mendoza. You just need somebody that can effectively run that offense, can get the ball to them, accurate. They're going to run the offense the way you want to run it, and they can execute it. That's it. You don't have to have some dynamic, crazy stud. It's just somebody. Yeah, I think people get in their minds when you say, okay, they're going to the portal for a quarterback. They're thinking of the highest quarterback. It's like, it doesn't have to be the highest quarterback, guys. It doesn't have to be the highest one. The best fits are sometimes guys that are in the middle of the road that aren't going to cost as much. But it's just about finding that right guy that fits whatever offense that. Let's assume Gus is not going to be here. Whoever the offense in his philosophy, what guy fits that the best? And that's what you're looking for. Sometimes it's expensive, sometimes it's not. It's just I think people don't focus on the fit enough more than the expense of it. I think they're focusing on getting the best guy instead of sometimes you don't need the best guy. I think people thought Mendoza was going to be good, but I don't think they thought that he would be doing what he did at Indiana this level. This is another level.
I don't think anyone has. All right, last thoughts as we wrap things up here on National Signing Day on Warchant TV. Hit the thumbs up. We certainly would appreciate it. I'll let you go first here, Matt. But just again, looking at things right now, 31 kids committed, 14th ranked class, 20th, I think, again, if you look at the average star ranking, I mean, they got 31. That's a big number. So that's going to help, maybe inflate, if you want to use that word, your ranking. But just, again, looking at this class, I guess, big picture, your thoughts on this, and then spinning ahead to how do you think they're going to start recruiting high school coming up for 2027?
Yeah, like always at this point, 2027's gotten off to a good foundation. They had a lot of top guys come throughout the season this year, even through a bad season. So, that at this point now it's about building that relationship and kind of starting to get going there before you start talking numbers like all these kids are at now. In general, yeah, I like I said, going into today, the thing comes up with all the 3 stars like we've talked about a lot, but it's as I've sat here for 14 hours now, it's you start. I've looked at the list a lot today, and you kind of I am genuinely starting to get excited about a lot of these kids, and I think Cam Brooks at the end of it was really the icing on the cake. That one I am very, very excited about and very excited to see because he got injured his junior year, and I think that's part of the reason why the ranking fell. And he's had a good senior season. When he's healthy and he's really good, that's one I'm get really excited about. A lot of these guys that are underrated, I think, have a shot to be something. And that's not just me saying that. We've mentioned the offensive line is probably the part that you're a little worried about. I agree with that there. I think that got better with the surprise this morning. I think that's one of their better offensive linemen in this class right now. Mike Ionato is really good. There's a lot of guys there. And, the legacy flair is very interesting. We haven't even brought up that they signed Jameis Winston's brother this whole hour. That's cool. So it's there we go. That'll get the algorithm going. Jameis Winston. But it's, we saw Jameis Winston's wide receiver skills a few weeks ago on that catch, and his brother's a wide receiver. So, that's all I'm saying.
Nice.
Michael, your thoughts on another signing day in the books, what this class looks like, and what do you think the future looks like for Florida State's high school recruiting?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good class. There's a lot of great players in this class. I think I've alluded to some of them that I felt like Brandon Bennett, those guys. There's a lot of Darion Williams. I think you can make an argument with a lot of these guys of being higher ranked, but I think it's a good class. Now I've said it clear, and I'm not going to back away, Aslan. I gave it a C+ earlier. I'm giving it a B-. That's where I think the class is as far as what they did. And the only reason that's low because you have to do something in the trenches where you get more than 1 4-star in the trenches. So in my opinion, you need a few more blue chippers, but that's okay. You got stuff that you need to work on. We understand that. I'm more interested to see when there are these changes, what's kind of the philosophy of what FSU does. Let's say if you have a new GM and you have different people doing a recruiting circle, I'm really intrigued to see what they do when they're hosting kids, of how different it is, and just kind of how different aggressive they are going into next year, because we know that's going to be a massive year for Mike Norvell and whoever the staff is. So I'm very intrigued to see what their principles are and what they do. But overall, there's a lot of great players in this class, guys. There's a lot. There's several guys that I feel like are impact guys. But what you want is the balance that we need to see throughout the whole class with every position. That's how you get top 10 classes, and that's what FSU used to. So that's kind of what we're looking for.
There you have it, everybody, in one tidy little package. Check out warchant.com. Check out the On3 Network. When you're a member of warchant.com, you get access to everything on the On3 Network, including Rivals and all that recruiting. Guys like Steve Wiltfong, he'll help you out, everybody. He's part of the crew. So give us a try. Go to warchant.com. Put it on the Christmas list. Maybe you're not ready to sign up right now. It's fine. Put it on the Christmas list. Ask for it. I guarantee you'll ask for a renewal every single year. And that's just an easy gift. It's like, what am I going to get for my son this year? Oh, I'm just going to renew his Warchant membership. What am I going to get my dad this year? I'm just going to renew his Warchant membership. Think about it. Think about it. For Matt and Michael, I'm Aslan. Thanks for watching. Hit the thumbs up. Would appreciate it. Stay connected to warchant.com. Much more coverage over there, as always, on the recruiting and portal board. Thanks, guys.